Thank you all for joining us for the Fireside Chat. Today we'll talk about bridging communication gaps so that we can better meet student and institutional needs while we're implementing online learning. I'd like to introduce Kim Siegenthaler, Louis Montenegro, Allison Lehr Samuels, Natasha Nurse-Clarke, Tiffany Atiles, and Sammy Fasolino. And the panel will be moderated by Carlos Guevara.
Good. Thank you. I want to see if this works. It works. So we tried to mimic that we have a fire place in the back end, so for us to have a conversation. Welcome, everybody. We are very happy to see you, to have spent the morning with you. We have great conversations. We have a great presentation from Kim in the morning, which is also going to help us in having the conversation this afternoon. And as we were having this conversation and coming back to having an in-person event, right? We've been through Zoom for so long, and we have also identified so many advantages and also disadvantages in how we are navigating through the digital space. And as we were having these conversations in the creation of the topic, or the theme for this conference, and we were thinking, okay, we have to have conversations about reimagining the future. So like we cannot wait until the future. We have to think about the present, reimagine the present of higher education, and then how everything that has happened has informed everything that we've done. And as you know, we're very happy to see how CUNY is accelerating the process of adopting online learning and promoting digital education. And we wanted to make sure that we have an exercise in having an opportunity to have conversations with different stakeholders in identifying how the communication flows and the importance of identifying and gathering all of the different perspectives from the stakeholders. And we hope that we have a good conversation, so make sure that you prepare your questions. We have some space for questions from you, from the audience, to make sure that then our stakeholders are able to also answer those questions for you. And it was very purposeful in how we chose the members for this panel. So we have participants from the student side. We have a graduate student. We have an undergraduate students. We also have a faculty member who have been teaching online for a while. And also we have those who have to implement the different initiatives. We have a director of the Center for Teaching and Learning who works also doing the online teaching implementation on campus. We have a colleague, Luis, from the Office of Academic Affairs, and we have Kim Siegenthaler from CUNY Central. So we wanted to make sure that we have that opportunity to have, right, an element from all of the components for the university. And this is going to be a question that is going to be similar for everybody, but I'm going to start, and then I'm going to switch the order. I'm going to start from the student side, and whoever wants to go first, just feel free to jump in. The first question for you is, how do you feel about the university's move towards online learning? Very general.
Is this? Hello, everybody. It actually was a huge benefit for me. I obtained my bachelor's degree back in 2013. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer, but it's never too late. And boom, 10 years gone by, and I moved up north. I'm from the Bronx. And I said to myself, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I received an email from the Lehman alumni talking about this MSOL program, Masters of Science in Organizational Leadership. And it was a sign. I said to myself, Sammy, go for it. It's a 1-year program. It's going to be rigorous, 2 children later and a house, but I said, I'm going to do it. And it was primarily all online, and which works best for me in an online, because I'm not going to drive 50 plus miles down to the Lehman campus. I would love to, because it is a beautiful campus. But I stuck with it, and I'm only 2 classes away from obtaining my master's, and having the opportunity to do it online with such a busy schedule. And I know we all have busy schedules, but it worked for me to get to where I am right now today.
Great. Thank you, Sammy. Tiffany?
Definitely, hey everybody, definitely online learning. For me, I have a business that I run. It's a music business, and I also work part-time. And I have, various other projects going on, and I want to put my education first. And it's important to me. So, similar, I went back to school after many years, and it was a challenge for me, just the process of getting back into school. And then once solidified with Bronx Community, the online class option made it very flexible for me to succeed, and I'm able to, in my own space and where I can focus the best, really be able to excel in my classes. And that's been important. I did take one hybrid class my first semester, and it wasn't bad, but it definitely, it was nice to have, to be able to be on campus part of the time. But definitely when this semester I'm fully online, and it's been great. It's been really, really great and beneficial.
Thank you, Tiffany. This next question is for our faculty member, right? You have been in the process of shifting from when we were in the pandemic, and you've been teaching also online before. How do you ensure, right, that these online classes that our students, right, want to pursue, how do you ensure that the online classes are effectively conveying the course content and engage your students?
So, hi everyone. My name is Natasha Nurse-Clarke. I'm in the nursing department at Lehman College, and we've been doing online courses for quite some time, but the pandemic was a little bit different, and I'm not sure if other people were doing synchronous learning, but it's not something we had done before. So it was definitely, it was an experience to match online learning, which we had been doing asynchronously, with this new synchronous way of teaching, which was very new. So we had to find a way to not do only what you have done in the classroom, sit and lecture on Zoom for 3 hours, which I don't think any side would appreciate, or the completely asynchronous side also, because it was a synchronous class. So it definitely became very creative and came up with different ways to match the two. So for myself, one of the things that I started to do was lecture for small bits of time, 15, 20 minutes, and give an activity, put students in groups, and have them work on different activities. So I actually took the activities that I had done in my fully asynchronous class, and then some of the lectures that I'd done in my face-to-face classes, and that was how I kept students engaged. But now we're back to either fully face-to-face or fully online. And I found to engage students online, it really helps to give them, life-related activities and experiences. So we do things like have debates online, and we have different discussions, and I give students activities. One of the last activities that we've developed is something called virtual gaming simulation. So in nursing, we give students case studies, we give them simulations to do. During the pandemic, we had a lot of virtual simulations. And now, to add the added engagement that you're talking about, we added some gaming elements. So it'll have sound effects and audio clips and a leaderboard and things like that. So we're always trying to keep up with the changing times and keep our students engaged and be innovative with the things that we're doing, whether we're face-to-face or online. But these aspects really do help increase engagement when teaching online.
Great. Thank you, Natasha. This question goes for Allison as CITL director. On your end to support faculty, how do you make sure that the online courses being developed are effective and also make sure that this meet both student and institutional needs?
Big question. So I think compared to the other campuses that we've heard speaking so far, at Baruch, things were a little bit different. Prior to the pandemic, we really did not have robust, fully online courses. We frankly didn't have the infrastructure for it. We really focused on hybrid. So fast forward to spring 2020 panic, on our campus, most faculty did do the long synchronous sessions, and we did our best to figure out Zoom and make it more engaging. So as an organization, we had gone from supporting about 200 faculty who opted in to over 1,000 with no change in infrastructure and resources, and learning a whole, even though my team, we know best practices, that really in this area, we really had not been focused on that. What we did do, because we also wanted to make sure that what we were reading about and knew universally was what fit the needs of our students, is that we designed a COVID experience student survey, and we've been running it since. So we wanted to ask students directly about their experiences in their classes and what were things that were helping their learning, what are things that could have been better, and lessons learned. And interestingly, those findings relate to a lot of the things that are communicated, like Oscar quality matters, the clarity of communication. Like you were saying, they want relevant content, like they want engagement. Initially, not as much among the peers, because I think it was hard initially during the pandemic. They initially did not want group work, but now they're really craving community. So what we've been doing is running these surveys, conveying the results to our faculty, and a lot of it goes back to promoting active learning, rethinking your content, making sure it's relevant, and infusing that into all of our faculty development activities.
Thank you, Allison. The next question goes to our academic dean, Luis. In your role, what strategies have you implemented to promote and support online learning initiatives at your university while also meeting student needs?
Thank you. I think the most important thing that we have done is really find out what our needs are. Just doing a comprehensive dive into our resources, our needs, our resources, both human as well as capital, as well as spacing and physical, and determining and advocating for allocation of those resources for the specific needs that we need to address. So I think, like at other schools, we survey our students, survey our faculty. We look at enrollment trends for our students in the various modalities, and we recognize that one of the most difficult challenges to address was the feeling of comfort and competency that faculty needed to have in online instruction. And we also look to empower faculty that were early adopters into the online instruction, and also have a long track record of themselves running online program development initiatives, to hold those conversations with other faculty, to recruit them to our online programming, faculty development, and really pay attention to translate on an online virtual environment the best practices that worked in the physical classroom, as was addressed earlier in the keynote speech, that good teaching has to translate into a virtual environment with the technologies that are available. So I think that the institution, we needed to ensure that the institution was bought into what was needed to engage in making hard decisions on what funding we needed to allocate, coordinating with the various units on campus. You may recall the outset of the pandemic, and even a year or two after, there were horrendous logistical challenges that prevented a lot of things that used to be normal. Making a purchase, getting that delivered and installed within a matter of months took now delayed double or triple the time. So it was one challenge that we need to work with, which we had no control over, but recognized that our priority was to get those, to get the institution with the capacity to be able to offer online courses. So I think that the other aspect that we had to focus on was recognizing that this was an all hands on deck kind of initiative, that not only, this is not going to impact only instruction from an in-person to online modality, but all academic services. So our service units had to really change the way that they perform their functions and different expectations that they need to create for student interaction. So, and that to some degree led to some changes that have persisted after the pandemic, or after sort of the most difficult aspects of the pandemic. So our students expect to be able to see someone virtually for a particular service, tutoring, advisement, registration, etc. And so if we can say there are some benefits to that experience, is that now we need to have a greater capacity to engage our students in multiple modalities.
Great. Thank you, Luis. The next question is for Kim. And Kim shared with us about, the goal of, or the direction we are heading in CUNY in terms of online learning, but we wanted to see, we can hear a little more from you about what role do you think online education will play in the future of CUNY and of higher education in general?
So to me, the big perks of online ed are increased flexibility, accessibility, and choice. And I think where we create those, we increase those for our students, then everybody wins, right? Because you're able to go, just as our students have shared, what difference that has made in their ability to come back to school to pursue an additional degree. As we look across the number of courses that are being offered online, the number of programs that are being offered online, and where we're really going, I think over time, and I don't have a specific timeline for that, and this is not specific to CUNY, but I think we're going to see it a lot of institutions where we really develop most of everything to be delivered in multiple modalities. So again, as a matter of choice and flexibility, that it doesn't matter what the degree is, a student can mix and match modalities based on the particular course or the particular semester and how that aligns with their needs. And in some cases, the course content, where a student may feel more comfortable learning certain material online, other material face-to-face, but it really is about the flexibility and the choice.
Thank you, Kim. And as you could see, we are talking about online learning and how the benefits of online learning, and we see different perspectives, right? And also, you have heard a number of elements that have to be in place, right? From different angles. The faculty member thinking about how am I creating the tools so that my students are engaged, and from the support perspective, the same way. And on the administrative side, Luis mentioned it's not just about the one component, but you have to make sure you have other support elements. And I'm going to now go the other way. I'm going to ask this question to Kim again. Having heard all of these perspectives, what actions is the university taking to keep on top of online learning trends, and how are you informing your stakeholders about these steps?
Well, it's no small task. As we've talked about, change is happening rapidly. So one of my sources is professional organizations where I maintain close contact with my colleagues. So anytime something blows up, I can call one of them and say, what's this about? So we keep each other informed, but change is just happening. And so in terms of communication, it has to be a constant conversation at multiple levels across the central office and then to the campuses. And so, I interact on a regular basis with the provost. We've now established the Online Education Council. I meet on occasion with the Blackboard admin group, with the with CAT, with the CETL Council, and trying to have those conversations, not just me delivering an update on what's happening, but to also get the input from the campuses so that the central office, we know what the issues are as well, because this is a conversation, it's a partnership, it's a collaborative, and that's the only way that we're going to be successful in advancing this with any sort of pace and with broad buy-in across the campuses. And again, just for all of us to keep reminding each other that the reason we do this is for the students, right? To make it possible for more students to pursue their academic goals and to pursue their professional goals.
Thank you, Kim. Yep.
Okay, so as you were talking, I was thinking about, so I guess 2 years ago, we had a task force that I led on my campus to reimagine the future of online education at Baruch and to propose some sort of infrastructure for it. And I was really surprised because we held about 26 focus groups among students, faculty senate, governance, the deans, everybody. Communication's so important, but the other thing I feel like that everybody's had such whiplash from the past couple of years that in a lot of conversations when we were asking people to reimagine the future, they were still kind of thinking about what they had just experienced and with their current set of resources. So like one of the things that I was thinking about is like we need communication, but we also need a little space like to gestate and to focus, and that's hard. We're in a rush to build things, and a lot of people I think get into these lines of work not for the money, but because of a love for education, their discipline, of their connection with their students, the community. And a lot of this is getting used to what will be that new source of connection, that new community that can be built in an online environment. And that can be very hard for a number of people to imagine. So like when I went around and I talked to faculty, I said, well, like for example, right now you could read Hamlet, you can listen to the audiobook, you can see a movie, you can hear, like there's so many different genres and they all have their own affordances. And you might have your own preference. That doesn't mean everybody else has the same one as you. But I feel like we need a little bit of time to kind of figure things out and what these best practices are.
Thank you, Allison. And that was the question that I was going to ask. What are some of the challenges that you're facing, right? And in private sector, this is called research and development, right? And there is enough opportunity for us to try new things, right? Not necessarily is going to always succeed, but gives you the opportunity to test, as you said, the time. A similar question for Luis. What challenges have you faced in leading the implementation of online learning initiatives, and how can the institution better support you in meeting those challenges?
I think I'll point to the one you just mentioned, Allison. Fatigue, change fatigue is a real thing. There are faculty and staff as well that they want to put a stop to the constant change that has occurred. Certainly, I think since the pandemic. So when we either on the campus or with leadership from the university, launch an initiative, we have to make sure to launch it in a way that has the greatest benefit for the individuals that are invested in it. And then those early adopters can be our best marketers for expansion of it to others. And then it's a number of cycles, it might take a few semesters, where it'll be seen as just one of the options that we can offer our students. We recognize that our faculty have passion for teaching, and those that are always looking for new ways to connect with students, new ways to deliver instruction, to make that connection. There are early adopters, and we have established interest groups, committees of faculty just by their interest. In essence, they're testing out all these new ideas. Sometimes they get ahead of us, our ability to support them, but it's always important to keep their passion alive and provide support when we are able to do so, and redirect their passion to then initiatives that we can support and expand further. So I think one of the challenges is determining when is the right time to expand to the whole campus or to the whole institution, and when we may need to look at a different strategy of develop those initiatives. And sometimes that flexibility is not available to us, either by circumstances or by directives that impact the institution as a whole. But I think that because we have built that trust with faculty, and we continue to engage in conversations with them in the process of adoption, we have been successful to the degree that I can say in I think keeping that trust and keeping that passion that the faculty have alive, trying to address really that fatigue that sometimes creeps in, and our last 2 years really have recognized as an institution that we have to acknowledge it and find ways to support faculty that have that sense.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Luis. For Natasha, a similar question from your perspective. What challenges have you faced in developing and delivering online courses, and what the institution could do to better support you?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges really relate to communicating effectively with students. You know, if you're in a classroom, it's easy to ask a question about something that you're struggling with, but online, it can be a little bit more difficult, and students can get easily frustrated if they don't see an answer, or many people can relate if you're working with technology and something just doesn't work. It's easy to become frustrated. So I've found over time that it's been very helpful for me to help students along by doing several things. One is doing like overview videos for students, not just of the assignment, but if it's a discussion board, this is how you submit a discussion board. Or if it is a voice thread, this is how you use voice thread, this is how you submit an answer. And that is at the beginning of every module, so students know what's expected. They've got deadlines, they've got due dates all listed in a single place, just to make things easier for students to follow along. And our Office of Online Education and Blackboard Help Desk has been really great with creating shells for the master shells for online courses. So there are basic things in there that will help students, like a Welcome Start Here module. This is where you can get started and get some basic information about the course. Again, so we're not just throwing students in and then they get frustrated and they're not sure what to do or what to do first. And other things are making sure that lines of communications are open. There's always a forum in the course for students to ask questions, because I tell them all the time, you may not be the only person that has that questions. Other students may have those questions, so it's good for them to be able to see that there. And then, of course, if all else fails, just talking to students and finding out what's happened. I try to be extremely clear in my directions. I give them an overview video. I give them rubrics. I give them examples. But for example, one last assignment that we had, many students didn't follow the formatting of using some headings. I sent it back. I said, use the headings. They sent it back. They still didn't use the headings. So I just wrote to one student and I said, this is the instructions for the assignment. I felt like it was clear, but perhaps I'm not being very clear. How would you write these instructions to make it clearer for students? And she wrote something that was great. It was very clear, and I posted that in the class instead. So it's great just to stay connected to students, communicate, and if something is off, it's probably off for multiple students, and you can just get some feedback from them about what would be best to help communicate effectively. And that really helps them to learn better and helps the course to move better.
Thank you, Natasha. I don't know if the audience picked up any commonality in the responses that we got, right? From I asked about a challenge, but you not only provided the challenge, but you also provided the solution, right? You provided a solution, and that was one of the reasons we wanted to make sure that you're here in this panel, that because you're able to also provide those other perspectives as well. For our students, what challenges have you faced while taking online courses or adapting to online courses? And what would you ask for the institution to better support your needs?
I definitely had a challenge. Last semester, I was taking a cybersecurity course, and my personal laptop, the software that I needed to implement on my computer just didn't have the capacity for it. So I was like scrambling. I'm like, what am I going to do? But I remembered that Bronx community allowed you to borrow laptops. So I was able to connect with IT, and it was a very smooth process. I think I emailed and then set up, time to come and pick it up. And then the laptop worked perfectly. And they actually allow me, as long as I'm in school, to keep the laptop. So it works out perfectly. And I would say, what was the second part of the question you asked?
What would you ask or the institution to help you address the needs that you have?
I think the one thing that would improve, and I think it was talked about earlier, is just that bond of community on being in online classes. There are some community, I believe that's growing. Like I have the Bronx Community College app, and I get the notifications. People are posting things on the board and stuff. So that's pretty cool. But I think maybe more of like community, because maybe within the infrastructure of each class that the professor would manage somehow. One way is definitely discussion boards help a lot. When my class has discussion boards, I realized that I had a fellow classmate from psychology from my last class in my current communications class. So it was cool. We were able to connect through a discussion board and support each other as we did the assignments. So I think more of that would be excellent.
Thank you, Tiffany. Sammy?
So the challenges for this MSOL course program that I'm a part of is basically staying on task. It's no joke. You signed up for a reason, to achieve that goal, to obtain your master's, but there's a price you have to pay. You have to be all in. And if you fall behind, I'm not saying the professors have been great. They will provide some additional days, maybe a week, but you have to stay on task in order for it to work. In the beginning, it was smooth sailing. And, come winter, I started August 2022. Come winter, I had one course, which was 3 weeks. So, picture a person who works full time, has kids, takes care of their family, 2 dogs as well. And it's tough. But on the flip side, we're all adults. We know what we've signed up for. So we take on that challenge to, complete our tasks in an orderly fashion. And it's worked for me. In the beginning, I was a wreck. So what I devised in my head was to just take it week by week, and the puzzle, everything will come into place. And thank goodness it has for me and most of my cohort. I developed such great relationships with them. I have most of them on speed dial. So they've been a great support throughout this whole process. And any changes,
Yeah.
I'm a people person. I understand what I signed up for to do this all online, but in the beginning was great. In August of 2022, we met quite often on Zoom. I loved it. I saw my cohort. We had a great time. And as the classes were going on, the Zoom sessions were becoming more optional. And I get it. Everybody's schedules are crazy. It's hard to make certain times at the day, especially at night, because you're done, you're burnt out. And so I would hope in the future there would be more Zoom classes for these online courses. But again, I know it's going to be a work in progress, but that would be my
Thank you, Sammy. There's a couple of things to highlight. You mentioned about the importance of building community, right, and support structures for students, for faculty, right, and for the support staff, right, for CITL directors, instructional designers, the same way to be able to support in a better way and connect and identify, like Kim mentioned about being connected to professional organizations to identify, get some advice. How can we build those things in place that at the university are, great recommendations that we're hearing. Just to close in our, it's not, we thought it, I was looking at the time just flew really quickly. And this question goes to everybody, and in no order. Anybody that wants to start, please do. What would you say is missing in order for us to take online learning to the next level at CUNY? Now, that was a nice question. I got you thinking about. That's good. Allison?
I'm going to say two things, but I'll be fast. The first thing I think is that there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of opportunity. We also have a lot of educational technologies that have been developed here. We need, as usual, more money and resources, I think, and for faculty development. Then the other thing is a little bit different, and it's kind of an elephant in the room. One of the things that makes online learning very attractive is the flexibility, the asynchronous nature of it. And then we also have, how do we make it accessible, to everyone? It's really hard to match educational policy and make it fair for everyone. I don't have an answer for that, but, currently we have the web camera policy that most students are not required to turn on their web camera policy. There's a good reason for that, but the downside is there are often a lot of black boxes. So I think just one of the big challenges is that it's complicated. This is a very complicated endeavor, and unfortunately, it can't work for everybody under every so I think us navigating what our priorities are moving forward will be important, and understanding that it's not going to be perfect for everyone.
Thank you, Allison. Who would like to go next? Natasha?
I had a couple things, some things that have been a little bit difficult for me to navigate. Again, coming from a nursing background where everything is very, very structured, there's policies, there's guidelines for everything. And in online education, and probably because it's still up and coming, there are some gray areas in terms of some policies and guidelines. For instance, how many students is too much students to have in an online course? Or in terms of administering exams online, how is that generally done? Some people give an exam and then it's open for a week for students to take. Some people give an exam and it's open for 24 hours. Some people give an exam and it's open for 3 days or something like that. So I found that there are variations in how people actually do an online course. And there are not as many policies and guidelines related to some of those structural things. And I think that that's one of the things that we can do to kind of be more consistent, but not exactly the same. Everywhere it might be a little bit different, but some type of consistency between the way that some of those policies are administered in classes.
Thank you, Natasha. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, great challenges from both of you, and I think both of the things that you've talked about really illuminate sort of the breadth of online ed and all of the moving pieces that it takes to do it well. I mean, when you think about online education really being no more than 25 to 30 years old, and then you think of how old traditional in-person education is, and the centuries that we've had to work through some of those things and develop policies. And then all of a sudden we're going, oh, but wait, that doesn't work anymore, or that doesn't work in the online space, or it doesn't work for these kinds of students. And so it does, I've used the example several times lately of we're shaking up the snow globe and turning it upside down for folks. And so we talk about managing the pace of change, and there's some change that we can manage the pace of, and there's other change that we just have to run along behind and try not to get run over. Chat GPT, and some of those others. So we're trying to stay calm in the midst of the hurricane. And so I think this is, again, where it's so important for us to talk together, to share the issues and the concerns. And sometimes things come to me, then I'm like, well, why am I just now hearing this? When if we had talked about this 3 months ago, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. And so it is that need for us to talk across our campuses, to talk up and down, to really identify these pain points. What are the resources that are needed? How can we do these things better? Where do we need different kinds of policies? Where do we need consistency? Because I don't know, I mean, I don't know what's happening across the 25 campuses, and I want to support, but we have to talk to one another.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone will start?
I don't know if it's missing so much, but what I would suggest, and we've had these conversations via Zoom, is for all of us to meet at the end of the program, whether it be a restaurant, a gathering, just to say we did it. If I could mention a name, Janet DeSimone, who's been excellent, started with this phrase in the beginning of the course, we got this. And yes, we do, we got this. And I always stress it in the Zoom classes, and it's kind of infectious. Sammy, we got this, you got it. So, to meet and to see them face to face of what we've been through, that the rigorous studying and submitting those 10, 12-page papers, it's almost a pat on the back and a reward for us. So, again, we spoke about it, but again, the schedules are very tight with everyone. But one day it'll happen where we could all meet and discuss our journey and how we're going to move forth in the future.
Great. Thank you, Sammy. Tiffany?
I would say for me, one of my, it's actually a challenge right now, is most of the classes that I have left are actually all in person. And so that's I'm taking right now, I'm at a pace of 2 classes a semester, and next semester, 1 is online, 1 is in person, and then it's going to just be in person. So it's like, for me, just having more opportunities for those classes, especially because they're technology. So I feel like those should be able to be virtual. So that's one thing that I'm just in the midst of right now, but thank you.
Thank you. Now for our colleagues to take notes, right, on the flexibility component. Luis?
Well, I'm in a working group that it's planning the launching of the online programs of BCC, so I could give you a list of 10 or 12 things that are missing, but we're confident that we'll get there. The one thing that I think we're having the most difficult part is to the point that was made earlier about making connections with students in the online programs. How do we maintain a sense of community for those students, not only in the classes that they're taking, in the programs that they're enrolled in, but in the co-curricular activities that we know are so important for student life? How do we replicate, intentionally develop activities that support those students and validate their experiences and build a community for them that we normally have done it post-pandemic in an either-or setting. Either everything was virtual for everybody or everything was in person for on-campus activities. How do we do it specifically for this population of students, whether duplicating what we do or high flex as we've done for our classroom activities, so that we really need to engage our student life leaders in working with students in developing those kinds of activities that support those students, because we know it's so important. The connection that they make with someone, their professor, an advisor, counselor, is so crucial for their success and retention on campus.
Thank you, Luis. We have heard the complexity, right, on pushing an initiative like this in online learning, and we see the different facets, and each facet has a complexity of its own. And I think it's important for us to how we identify opportunities, create more spaces like this where we have the perspectives from the different stakeholders. I'm going to do a quick advertisement of my own. Very happy that yesterday Educos published a work that we've been doing for a couple of years in doing something similar like this. It's called Developing a Framework for Digital Learning Strategy. And the recommendations that we were providing, it was just make sure that you listen to your stakeholders and then you identify all of those conversations. So just take a look at it in Educos and send me some feedback. Any questions from the audience? We have now time for questions from the audience. I think the mics should be somewhere. Just raise your hand. Yes?
First, thank you for all the panelists. This was very informative. I have a question for the students, panelists. When I was in college, the tablets were made out of stone. And when I come down to the job I have, it is a learning curve and intimidation. Did either of you ever have such intimidation, or if not, why not?
Hey, Dermot, how are you?
Good, Sammy.
So, I mean, I'm tech savvy, I would say. I just basically dealing with the Blackboard and CUNY first. I find it very helpful. You know, it could be a little challenging, clicking here and there, but I've found it to be straightforward, and it helps me to succeed in what I'm doing.
I am definitely tech all my life, so it's easy for me to navigate, but I am good at like seeing if something is user friendly, and I feel that Blackboard is, and also with all of my professors that I've taken online classes, they're really good at giving instruction, and also like in a section on the course page, it also gives instructions, so you can just go back and read, open up another tab, go back and forth, what have you. So yeah.
Great. Any other question at the back?
Catch. That's what happened when you're tired and you've been running all day.
Good exercise, Albert.
Yep. I'm up to 10,000 steps.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Asma, Office of Online Education at Lehman College. And I've had a great day today, just learning and hearing more about how robust online learning is within CUNY. And when I talk to colleagues or other people in my circle, my social circles, they who are not necessarily like exposed to online learning, they're kind of surprised that it's so robust. So my question is, have you encountered stigmas or attitudes towards online education as we're like developing and coming up with new policies and ways of like making it so robust and excellent? How do you guys respond to stigma, the idea that in person implies that the educational experience is different, and not just qualitatively, but because it's not online, if that makes sense?
Anybody that would like to?
I guess that one's mine. Because I have those conversations all the time. And, you know, in some respects where people are just curious, then you can explain, you can provide data, you can provide examples. In other cases, people have already made up their minds. And in those kinds of conversations, my response tends to be, okay. And, you know, like where I encounter faculty who say, well, online is inherently inferior and nobody should take an online class and we shouldn't be teaching online classes. And my response is, well, if that's what you think, please don't teach one. You know, I think it's like a lot of things. People need to be exposed in a variety of ways over a period of time, and pushing people into a modality that they are not comfortable with, that they do not understand enough to provide an equitable kind of learning experience. Okay, sit over here. Watch and learn from your colleagues. Listen to your students. And then as you begin to change your mind, we're happy to provide additional resources, to provide opportunities. But I gave up many years ago trying to persuade someone that online education is valid and rigorous and meaningful in the same way that in person is, if they're not willing to or ready to hear that.
Thank you, Kim. Allison?
Just building on that, I think it's true. What is the motivation behind the question, and is it really a question? Just another thing I just feel like is, well, if somebody does want to do it and they're good at it, why would you get in the way? That to me seems counterintuitive. Thank you. No problem, but it just seems like it's like antithetical to being part of an educational community. I mean, we should all be stretching and learning and having our colleagues supporting that way. And, you know, the other thing too is there might be students who can't do it the way you want to. So are you going to cut off an educational opportunity even if it's not perfect? I mean, despite anybody's mode of instruction, because I'm also on the faculty, I've had semesters that I'm doing fantastic work and others then maybe my life isn't going as well and I'm not as present. I mean, people have careers that goes up and down. So, and a number of the studies too, what are the basis of these studies? What are they even comparing? Is it, you know, so I feel like a lot of the critical thinking that goes into how most people would approach their own field kind of goes out the window with this. So I think you have to be open and hear what people have to say, because there often are very good points and concerns. But at a certain point, some people want to listen and others, they just want to say what they want to say.
Thank you. Luis?
Yeah, I'd like to add that to those in the public outside of education, what gets to you regarding online education may be what gets filtered through the news, and to a large degree, news that sell to are a lot of times negative. So you get the stories of the bad apples. You get stories about perhaps a particular institution for profit, not naming names, that has done bad things. The students enrolled in those institutions have had bad experiences and have been incurred large debts, and that's what gets to the news. I think the other experience people can refer to is what occurred right immediately after March 2020, where we went distance learning, which is not online education. So I think those experiences to some degree shaded attitudes in the public. But I do concur that those that look at education now have to look at how students enroll in those online programs are doing, and how the flexibility that those programs afford them is really impacting their lives and allowing them to progress in ways they wouldn't otherwise. So I think it's important to continue the conversation and to work with those that, to some degree, are the filterers of the narratives to tell a better story, tell a more complete story on our behalf.
Great. Thank you, Luis. We have time for one more last question. Wow, nice.
It's right here.
It's up to you, Albert. Who do you want to? All right. She wins.
Sorry. There are many studies that have been done on online education, and most of them point to the fact that, in fact, just looking at what the Brookings Institute has concluded, virtually all of these studies found that online instruction resulted in lower student performance relative to in-person instruction. So that's one thing I'd like to bring to your attention as scholars. The second thing is that I was listening to a program on WNYC this morning. If you have an opportunity, please look for the program with Matthew Desmond, I believe it was his name. And he was talking about the complicity of middle class in terms of perpetuating poverty. And here is where I think I'd like to challenge us, because I've taught mathematics in New York City to in public schools, in CUNY, in private schools. And one thing I can tell you for a fact is that students, particularly those who struggle for various reasons, I would say a number of those students are usually from struggling schools and poor, just from poverty, conditions, will not thrive in an online settings. And in the classes that I've taught, not only was infrastructure a problem, but simply the ability to develop a community of people to study with, to commune with, it is not the same. And so I would challenge us as we talk about, because I'm not against online education, I think it has a place, but I think that we need to challenge ourselves in terms of making sure that we take care of the needs of students in our communities and classrooms that are really, really shortchanged by the current system. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure, was that a challenge or a direct question that you wanted to ask?
I'd like
please.
to respond to that. Online education is not for everyone. Period. It is well suited for some students at certain times. And so there is, students have a responsibility. I'm talking about adult students, right? Not talking about elementary school. I'm not talking about high school. I'm talking about adults who have the responsibility to make an informed decision about what's in their best interest. And sometimes students who maybe will not fare as well in online classes will choose to take them anyway because that's their only real option. So our responsibility is not to let them flail and fail in those courses, but to ensure that we are providing the very best quality possible of instruction that is designed specifically for the online environment, and to ensure that we are providing the very best wraparound support services that we would provide for our on-ground students, whether that's tutoring, peer mentoring, whatever that might be, that will enable students to succeed in those courses. But no, online is not the best choice for every student, just like a large lecture is not the best choice for every student.
Thank you, Kim. Natasha?
Yeah, I wanted to also echo those points that there has to be a balance. Online education isn't for everyone, and some people will not thrive in that environment. But I also want to highlight the other side, that there are many people that now have access to education or furthering their education that would otherwise not have had that ability or that access. and that will and can thrive in that environment. So I agree that our job is to create and foster an environment that our students can be successful in, but also to identify students that cannot be successful in this environment. Maybe there are things that we can do to bridge that gap, and maybe there are not. But I think that from what I've heard, a lot of discussions about online education in kind of this all or nothing type of tone. And I don't think that that needs to be the case. I think that there are opportunities, and even not just some students, but some courses are not suited for an online environment. So I think there's an opportunity for both. And many of the courses that I teach is in an online RN to BS program. These are students who are registered nurses coming back to get their bachelor's degree. And for many of them, this provides the flexibility that they need to be able to work, go to school, have their family. And I am concerned, and I would caution us to paint online education with one stroke, that it's not great for some students, but it is really, really great for other students that may not have had that access.
Thank you, Natasha. And with this, I wanted to ask everybody to help us in thanking our panelists for such a great conversation. We are left with the importance of flexibility, and just make sure that flexibility does not just apply to students, it applies to everything, everybody, faculty member, careers, and everything. We have to identify what works and what doesn't work, and that flexibility has to be built in. With that, thank you very much. Please join me in thanking our panelists.